Broken one, but the encrypted device Miranda had given him. He typed a quick message. "Richard's here, supervising, maybe a problem." Miranda's response came back in seconds. "Proceed as planned. I'm in position." The vault was located behind an unmarked door at the end of the administrative wing. Marcus had walked past it 1,000 times during his custodial rounds, never thinking about what it contained. Now he understood it held the secrets that could destroy Eleanor Vanguard, or make her unstoppable. The door's lock was standard commercial grade. Marcus had it open in 40 seconds. Inside, the vault was exactly as Miranda had described. A floor-to-ceiling combination safe, circa 1970s, built when people still trusted steel more than electronics. Marcus approached it, fingers hovering over the dial. This was the moment. Once he opened this vault, there was no going back. He thought of Sophia, asleep 4 floors above, her small chest rising and, falling with the rhythm of borrowed time. He spun the combination 174409332108. The vault door opened with a satisfying click. Inside, 17 accordion files sat organized by year. Marcus pulled the first one, 2020, and opened it. What he found made his blood run cold. Act 9. The truth. Files weren't about negligence lawsuits. They were about murders. Marcus's hand shook as he photographed page after page. Patient names, dates of death, and next to each name, a typed notation in clinical language that nonetheless told a horrific story. Patient 2847B. Experimental compound V73 administered without consent during routine surgery. Cardiac arrest at 1422. No resuscitation attempted per Protocol 7. Patient 3012C. Stage 4 lymphoma. Enrolled in control group but secretly given V73 derivative. Respiratory failure at 3:15. Attending physician noted expected outcome. 17 files. 143 patients over 5 years. Memorial Hospital wasn't just being acquired by Eleanor Vanguard. It had been her private testing facility, using terminal patients as unknowing guinea pigs for experimental drugs that weren't ready for official clinical trials. Dr. Patel's name appeared throughout the files, authorizing treatments, signing off on deaths, accepting payments deposited to offshore accounts. Sophia's doctor, the man Marcus had trusted with his daughter's life. Marcus felt the world tilting. His phone buzzed. "Miranda, how's it going?" Marcus typed back with shaking fingers. "It's worse than we thought." "Much worse." "Patel's involved, Sophia?" The question punched through his shock like a bullet. Marcus frantically flipped through the most recent files. Scanning for his daughter's name, he found it in a folder dated 3 weeks ago. Patient 8847S, Sophia Reed. Janine, approved for Phase 3 trial of V73 final formulation. Father's consent to be obtained through standard pressure protocols. Treatment to begin upon resolution of financial barriers. Expected survival rate with V73, 91%. Control group survival rate, 34%. Recommend enrollment as test subject rather than control to maintain father's cooperation and access to facility. Marcus read the words 3 times, his mind refusing to process them. Eleanor Vanguard's experimental treatment that cost $2.4 million wasn't approved therapy. It was her untested drug, the same compound that had killed 143 people. And she planned to use Sophia as her next test subject. The 91% survival rate meant nothing. These people were liars and murderers. They'd probably told those 143 patients they had a 91% chance too. Rage and terror warred in Marcus's chest. He wanted to run upstairs, grab Sophia, and disappear. But he forced himself to think tactically. Miranda needed this evidence. The families of the dead needed justice. And Sophia needed treatment from someone who wouldn't use her as a lab rat. Marcus activated the scanner and began systematically photographing every page of every file. The device Miranda had given him was military grade. It captured everything in high resolution, uploading directly to an encrypted cloud server that even Eleanor's hackers couldn't trace. 15 minutes in, his phone buzzed again. Not Miranda this time, an unknown number. "Time's up, Mr. Reed. Bring the files to the loading dock, now, Richard." Marcus checked his watch. He'd been in the vault for 23 minutes. He still had 7 minutes by the original timeline. They were rushing him, which meant something had gone wrong. Marcus quickly finished photographing the last file, then carefully placed all 17 folders into a canvas bag. He closed the vault, spun the combination lock, and headed for the door. In the hallway, he pulled out his phone and called Miranda. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. Marcus's instincts screamed at him. He diverted from the route to the loading dock, instead taking the stairs to the basement level where the server room was located. He found Miranda lying in a pool of blood outside the server room door. "Miranda!" Marcus dropped beside her, his fingers going to her neck. Pulse weak but present. She'd been shot twice in the chest, but the wounds looked like they'd missed major arteries. Professional placement meant to incapacitate, not kill. Not yet anyway. Her eyes fluttered open. "Reed, it's a trap." They knew. Who knew? Eleanor? All of them. Patel, Richard. They've been working together for years. She coughed, blood flecking her lips. Eleanor didn't save your daughter at the bus terminal by accident. She orchestrated it. Marcus felt reality fracturing around him. "What do you mean?" "Emma doesn't have a nut allergy. They gave her a pretzel laced with something to make her choke. Timed it perfectly so you'd be there." Miranda gripped his arm with surprising strength. "Eleanor's been watching you for months. Ever since she decided Memorial needed to disappear. She needed someone desperate, someone skilled, someone she could own. The choking was staged. Everything was staged. The interview timing. Your daughter's treatment delays. All of it designed to put you in exactly this position, breaking into a vault to steal evidence of your own daughter's enrollment in an illegal medical trial." Miranda's breathing was labored. "If you'd destroyed these files like she asked, you'd have erased the only evidence that Sophia was being used as a test subject, and you'd be guilty of obstruction of justice." Marcus understood with terrible clarity. Eleanor hadn't been recruiting him to help cover up her crimes. She'd been setting him up to take the fall for them. Once he destroyed the evidence, she'd have turned him over to authorities, a desperate father who broke into hospital records, to hide his daughter's involvement in illegal trials that he'd somehow gotten her. Rolled in, the perfect scapegoat. "The car outside," Marcus said. "Richard's waiting for me." "Not just Richard. Eleanor's there too. With security. They're going to kill you the moment you hand over those files. Make it look like you attacked them when they caught you stealing." Miranda pressed something into his hand. "A USB drive. I got into the servers before they found me. Everything's on here. Financial records, communications, all the evidence we need. I'm calling 911. No time. They're coming back for me. They left me alive as bait for you." Miranda pushed him weakly. "Go get your daughter. There's a doctor, Chen Wei, at Stanford. Show him these files. He'll help Sophia, no questions asked. He owes me a life debt. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Sophia needs you. Those families need justice." Miranda's eyes were fierce. "Reed, I knew this was suicide when I started investigating. I made my peace. Now make yours and get the hell out of here." Footsteps echoed in the stairwell above them. Marcus hesitated for one agonizing second, then grabbed the USB drive and the canvas bag with the physical files. He pressed his janitor's jacket against Miranda's wounds. "Stay alive," he whispered. "That's an order." Then he ran. Marcus knew every corridor, every supply closet, every hidden passage in Memorial Hospital. While Eleanor's security swept the basement looking for him, he used the service elevator to reach the 4th floor. Sophia's room was dark and quiet. Marcus slipped inside, his heart hammering. His daughter lay sleeping, her breathing steady, the monitors beeping their familiar rhythm. How many times had he sat in this room, watching her sleep, praying for a miracle? And all along, the monster offering that miracle had been planning to sacrifice her on the altar of experimental science. "Sophia," he whispered, gently shaking her shoulder. "Princess, wake up. We need to go." Her eyes opened, confused. "Daddy, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. But we're going on an adventure. To California. To see the ocean." Sophia's face lit up despite her confusion. "Really? Right now?" "Right now." Marcus quickly disconnected her IV. He'd watched the nurses do it 1,000 times. He grabbed her go bag from the closet, the emergency kit he'd prepared months ago just in case. "Can you walk?" "I think so." They made it to the service stairs before the alarm started blaring. Marcus heard shouting from below. Security had found Miranda, which meant they knew he'd taken the files and run. They'd be locking down the building any second. He couldn't use the main exits. But Memorial Hospital was 100 years old, built in an era when buildings had secrets. "Hold on to me tight, princess," Marcus said, lifting Sophia into his arms, despite her protests that she could walk. He moved quickly down the stairs, past the lobby level, down to the sub-basement where the old coal tunnels still connected to the city's underground infrastructure. The maintenance tunnels were Marcus's domain. He'd explored every inch of them during his custodial rounds, mapping them obsessively the way he'd once mapped enemy compounds. Now that obsessive preparation was saving their lives. They emerged 15 minutes later, in the basement of an office building 3 blocks away. Marcus's lungs burned and Sophia was shivering, but they were out. "Daddy, you're scaring me," Sophia said quietly. Marcus held her close. "I know, baby. I'm sorry. But trust me, okay? Everything's going to be all right." He pulled out the encrypted phone and texted the only person who could help them now. "Garrett, I need an extraction. 2 persons. Location 3rd and Madison. Hot pursuit. Priority Alpha." The response came back in 30 seconds, 20 minutes. Stay alive until then. Marcus found a recessed doorway and pulled Sophia into it, making them both as small and invisible as possible. In the distance, sirens wailed. Police cars screamed past, heading toward Memorial Hospital. Sophia looked up at him with those 2 wise eyes. "We're running from bad people, aren't we?" Marcus had always promised never to lie to her. "Yeah, princess. We are. Are you in trouble?" "I'm going to fix it. I promise. Did you do something wrong?" That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? Had he done something wrong? He'd broken into a vault. He'd stolen confidential files. He'd fled from authorities. By any legal definition, he was a criminal now. But he'd also uncovered evidence of 143 murders. He'd saved his daughter from becoming victim 144. He'd obtained proof that could bring down a corrupt pharmaceutical empire. "I did what I had to do to protect you," Marcus said finally. "And I'd do it again." Sophia hugged him fiercely. "Then you did the right thing." A black SUV with no plates pulled up exactly 20 minutes later. The door opened, revealing Garrett Cross. Older, harder, but with the same ice-blue eyes Marcus remembered. "You look like hell, Reed," Garrett said. "Get in." They were 3 miles from Memorial when Garrett handed Marcus a tablet showing live news coverage. The headline made Marcus's stomach drop. "Major pharmaceutical executive arrested in hospital scandal." But the photo wasn't Eleanor Vanguard. It was Miranda Chen, Acta 12. The frame, the news anchor's voice filled the SUV. FBI agents arrested Miranda Chen, executive assistant to Vanguard Industries CEO Eleanor Vanguard, on charges of corporate espionage, theft of proprietary medical data, and conspiracy to commit fraud. According to authorities, Chen had been working with an accomplice, identified as Marcus Reed, a hospital janitor, to steal confidential patient records and sell them to competitors. Chen is currently in critical condition at Memorial Hospital after being shot by hospital security during the attempted theft. Reed remains at large and is considered armed and dangerous. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. They'd flipped the entire narrative. Miranda was the villain. He was her accomplice. Eleanor Vanguard was the innocent victim of corporate espionage. The screen showed Eleanor at a press conference, her face a perfect mask of grief and betrayal. "Miranda Chen was a trusted member of my team for 6 years. To discover she'd been stealing proprietary medical research and patient data is devastating. And to learn she'd manipulated Mr. Reed, a vulnerable father desperate to help his sick daughter, is unconscionable. We're cooperating fully with authorities to bring both suspects to justice." "She's good," Garrett said grimly. "She's already positioned herself as the victim, and you as a delusional father who was manipulated by a corporate spy." "Miranda's alive?" Sophia asked hopefully. "For now," Garrett said. "But she's in federal custody in a hospital room under guard. If she wakes up and talks, she's a witness against their narrative. If she doesn't wake up..." He didn't finish the sentence. Marcus felt rage boiling in his chest. We have evidence. The files. The USB drive. Everything we need to prove what they did. Which you obtained illegally without a warrant by breaking into a secured vault, Garrett countered. Any defense attorney will get it thrown out in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Eleanor has an army of lawyers ready to bury you under so much legal pressure you'll never see daylight. Sophia tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, what's happening? Marcus pulled her close. The bad people are lying, but we're going to tell the truth. How? Garrett asked. You can't go to the police. They think you're a criminal. You can't go to the media. Eleanor owns half the journalists in this city, and you sure as hell can't go public with evidence you stole. Then we find someone who can't be bought, Marcus said. Someone who wants justice more than they want money. He thought about the files. The 143 names, the families who'd lost people and been told it was just bad luck, tragic complications, the inevitable outcome of terminal illness. Those families deserve the truth. Where are we going? Sophia asked as the SUV merged onto the highway, heading north out of the city. Somewhere safe, Marcus said. Where we can figure out our next move. Garrett glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Reed, you need to think very carefully about this. You're a fugitive now. Taking your daughter across state lines makes this a federal kidnapping charge. The smart play is to surrender, get a lawyer, and fight this in court. And Sophia's treatment while I'm in federal custody fighting charges? Garrett had no answer for that. Marcus pulled out the USB drive Miranda had given him and turned it over in his fingers. On it was evidence of 143 murders, conspiracy, fraud, and corruption that reached into the highest levels of pharmaceutical research. But Garrett was right. He'd obtained it illegally. No court would allow it. No prosecutor would touch it, unless he could find another way to make it public. A way that didn't require courts or prosecutors or people who could be bought. I need you to do something for me, Marcus said to Garrett. Something you're not going to like. I already don't like any of this. Good, then this won't be a big stretch. Marcus held up the USB drive. Take this, make copies, then distribute it to every journalist, every medical ethics board, every victim's family you can find. Send it to WikiLeaks. Send it to Congress. Send it to every person who might give a damn. That's classified medical data. Distributing it is a federal crime, so arrest me. But get this information out first. Garrett was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the dark highway ahead. Finally, he held out his hand. Marcus passed him the USB drive. You're going to end up in prison for this, Garrett said quietly. Then Sophia will visit me there. But at least she'll be alive to do it. Marcus kissed his daughter's head. And at least 143 families will finally know the truth about what happened to the people they loved. Epilogue. The revelations, X weeks later. The story that broke across every major news outlet wasn't the one Eleanor Vanguard had tried to tell. It was the truth. Vanguard Industries. Scandal, 143 patients. Used as unwitting test subjects, the files Marcus had stolen became the medical scandal of the decade once the Washington Post received them from an anonymous source. What started as corporate espionage charges against Marcus Reed and Miranda Chen transformed overnight into federal investigations of Eleanor Vanguard, Dr. Patel, Richard Morse, and 17 other Vanguard executives. The public backlash was immediate and devastating. Vanguard Industries' stock plummeted 73% in a single day. Eleanor Vanguard was arrested on 143 counts of negligent homicide, fraud, and conspiracy. Dr. Patel lost his medical license and faced criminal charges. Memorial Hospital's entire board was forced to resign, and Marcus Reed, the dangerous fugitive, became something else entirely in the court of public opinion. A father who'd risked everything to expose the truth. The federal charges against him didn't disappear. He'd still broken laws, still stolen files, still fled custody. But the narrative had shifted. Public pressure mounted for leniency, for understanding, for recognition that sometimes the law and justice weren't the same thing. Miranda Chen woke up 3 weeks after the shooting. Her first words, according to the nurse present, were, "Did Reed make it out?" When they told her yes, she smiled and went back to sleep. Sophia received treatment from Dr. Chen Wei at Stanford Medical Center, treatment funded by an anonymous donation that arrived the day after the scandal broke. The experimental therapy wasn't Eleanor's tainted drug. It was legitimate, peer-reviewed, FDA-approved treatment that offered real hope without making Sophia a lab rat. Her first round showed promising results. Marcus turned himself in on a Wednesday morning, walking through the front doors of FBI headquarters with Garrett, Cross at his side and the best defense attorney money could buy, paid for by a legal defense fund that had raised $4.7 million from people who believed he'd done the right thing. His trial was scheduled for 6 months out, but 3 days before Marcus surrendered, something else happened that no one expected. A package arrived at Marcus's lawyer's office. Inside was a handwritten letter and a certified check for $10 million. The letter read, "Mr. Reed, you saved my daughter Emma's life at the bus terminal. At the time, I believed I could repay that debt by saving your daughter's life. I was wrong about many things. About morality, about justice, about the cost of ambition. I won't ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. The families of the 143 people who died because of my decisions don't deserve explanations or apologies. They deserve the truth which you gave them. This check is not payment. It's not a bribe. It's acknowledgement that you were the hero in this story, and I was the villain. Use it for Sophia's treatment. Use it to rebuild your life. Use it however you see fit. I'm told that in prison, which is where I'll spend the rest of my life, there's time to think about the choices we make and the people we become. I'll have a lot of time to think about mine. Emma asks about you sometimes. She calls you the man who saved me. She doesn't know yet that you also saved 143 families from never knowing the truth about their loved ones. Someday when she's older, I'll tell her about the kind of courage it takes to sacrifice everything for what's right. Thank you for being the man I should have been." Eleanor Vanguard Marcus read the letter 3 times, then carefully folded it and placed it in the envelope with Sophia's drawing, the hero with the cape. He didn't cash the check. Instead, he divided it among the 143 families who'd lost people in Vanguard's illegal trials. Each family received $69,930.07. It wasn't justice. Money never was, but it was something. The twist in the morning of Marcus's surrender. As news cameras gathered outside FBI headquarters and Sophia held his hand tightly, Garrett Cross pulled Marcus aside for a private word. "There's something you should know," Garrett said quietly. "Something I found while investigating the Vanguard case." "What?" Eleanor Vanguard wasn't the mastermind. She was the figurehead. Garrett handed Marcus a folder. The real power behind Vanguard Industries. The person who actually designed the illegal trial protocols and ordered the cover-ups was someone else. Someone who's been in the shadows. For 20 years, Marcus opened the folder. The photo inside made his blood run. Cold Dr. Chen Wei, the Stanford oncologist who was currently treating Sophia Wei, worked for Vanguard until 3 years ago. Garrett continued. He designed the V73 compound. He wrote the protocols that killed 143 people. Then he disappeared from Vanguard's records entirely, right around the time Eleanor started acquiring Memorial Hospital. You're saying he's still involved? I'm saying Miranda's life debt story about why he'd help Sophia doesn't check out. Chen Wei doesn't owe Miranda anything, but according to financial records I uncovered, he's been receiving wire transfers from an offshore account connected to Vanguard Industries for the past 3 years. The same account that paid Dr. Patel. Marcus felt the world tilting again. Sophia's current treatment might be legitimate, or it might be the continuation of the experiment Eleanor started. Garrett's expression was grim. The V73 compound they were testing? Does work, Reed, that's the sick part. Eleanor was rushing human trials because early results showed a 91% remission rate. If she'd gone through proper channels, gotten real approval, she'd have saved thousands of lives legally. But she would have had to share credit. Share patents. Share profits, Marcus said, understanding. So she cut corners and killed people instead. And now Chen Wei has your daughter. The last test subject from the original trial series. The one whose results could prove whether V73 actually works long-term. Marcus looked across the plaza at Sophia, who was laughing at something the lawyer said. her bald head covered by the princess crown she'd worn the day this all started. His daughter. The ultimate prize. Not just a patient, but proof of concept for a drug that could be worth billions if it actually worked. What do I do? Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Garrett met his eyes. You do what you always do, brother. You find another way. You save your daughter, and you make the bad people pay. I'm about to turn myself in for federal crimes, I know, which gives you about 6 hours of freedom left. Garrett handed him a car key. There's a helicopter fueled and waiting at the private airfield in Greenville. It'll get you to Stanford in 4 hours. What you do when you get there is up to you. Marcus looked at the key in his hand, then at his daughter, then at the FBI building where agents waited to take him into custody. 6 hours to expose one more conspiracy. To save his daughter one more time. To be a hero when the whole world was watching. Or 6 hours to disappear forever. To run with Sophia and never stop running. To become the criminal they'd already accused him of being. Sophia caught his eye across the plaza and waved. Her smile bright enough to break his heart. Marcus made his choice. He pocketed the car key, walked over to his daughter and took her hand. Change of plans. Princess, he said softly, how would you feel about taking that helicopter ride we always talked about? Sophia's eyes went wide. Really, right now. Right now. We have an appointment in California with a doctor who needs to answer some questions. As they walked toward the parking garage instead of the FBI building, Marcus pulled out his phone and made one final call. Miranda. It's Reed, you awake? Her voice was weak but clear. Unfortunately. What do you need? Everything you have on Chenway, all of it. And I need it in the next 10 minutes. There was a pause. Then Miranda laughed. A painful, breathless sound. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Check your email. I sent the WAV files 3 days ago. Was waiting to see if you'd notice before you turned yourself in. Why didn't you just tell me? Because you needed to make the choice yourself. To decide whether you were done fighting or whether you had one more battle in you. Miranda's voice softened. For what it's worth, Reed, I'm glad you chose to fight. That little girl deserves a father who doesn't quit. She deserves a father who's not a fugitive. She deserves a father who's a hero. Now go be one. The line went dead. Marcus and Sophia reached Garrett's car, a nondescript Honda that could disappear into any traffic. As he buckled Sophia into the back seat, she looked up at him with those ancient eyes. Daddy, are we going to be okay? Marcus thought about Eleanor Vanguard in prison. About Miranda Chen recovering in a hospital bed. About 143 families finally getting answers. About the choice he'd made in a bus terminal to save a stranger's child. And all the impossible choices that had cascaded from that single moment. Yeah, Princess, he said, starting the engine. We're going to be okay. He believed it too. End of part 1. In the rearview mirror, the FBI building grew smaller. Ahead, somewhere in California, a doctor with blood on his hands was treating Marcus's daughter with medicine built on 143 graves. And Marcus Reed, janitor, father, hero, fugitive, had 4 hours to decide how this story really ended. Some choices save lives. Some destroy them, and some do both at once. The question wasn't whether Marcus would reach Chenway in time. The question was what he'd do when he got there.